You're up 10, less than 3 minutes to go. I'm sure as a head coach you feel you guys needed to find a way to close that out. What happened?
Yeah, I think, obviously, it's going to be a close game. That's the way, games are, and, the way Hamilton has been playing, you knew it was going to come down to, end of game scenario. So, we'll have to, look at, why certain things happened. And we'll spend the next couple of days looking at that and trying to find answers for it for sure.
You guys spent a lot of time trying to defend Kenny Lawler and take him away. We had talked to Mike before during the week, and it looked like you were doubling him a lot at the expense of other things you could potentially be doing defensively, and it opened things up for other members of Hamilton's offense. In hindsight, was that the right approach, or were there some different things you could have potentially done?
Well, I mean, listen, I think, because of, the way the game ended, and, it's always easy to look at, what ifs and, those type things. You got to give credit to Hamilton and Bo and what he did, distributing the football, being able to stay on the field and generate points, with their offense. So, we'll continue to, evaluate, and look at, this game very closely.
How much does the lack of pass rush from your front four concern
you? I believe those guys have been working. They've been, doing a good job of stopping the run. I think we need to find a way to get a little bit more pressure potentially.
Final one for me. Final play for their touchdown. Keer Smith uncovered. Can you take us through what happened there, where the bust may have occurred?
Yeah. I got to see the film before, but I'm sure it's communication error. But I'll wait on judgment on that until I see it.
What do you say to your team after a game like this?
You just got to understand of the reality of where we are, and having the ability to look at yourselves and ask yourself what more can I do, because we got to be able to finish football games. We got to be able to get ourselves to a point to where we're more consistent, and find a way to close games out. I believe the guys in that locker room are extremely together. I thought the effort and the week of prep was excellent. They're going to continue to work, and that's what I like about the group.
Does it help that you're going into a bye week now, and it's a little bit of time to let wounds heal, both physically and mentally, and kind of refresh and attack the second half here?
Well, I think they have to realize where we're at, and take it upon themselves to, get themselves mentally, prepared for, what we have ahead, and where this team needs to grow, and I'm hoping they do that this week. There's a lot of, very prideful men in that locker room. Winning at this level is never easy, and the margin of error is extremely thin, right? So, I want them to, have the understanding this week, get their bodies and minds right, and get, back to work, when we get back together.
How frustrating is it when you're on your last offensive series there, somebody jumps, there's no call, but your quarterback thinks he's got a free play, and it results in a 2-and-out? How frustrating is that?
It's really out of your control, really, right? So, you have to, learn from it. As hard of the lessons as these are, you have to learn from it, and, so we have to just, continue to play football and not worry about things that we can't control. And, that's got to be our mindset going forward. We're not gonna worry about those type things. We gotta play better. It doesn't come down to that last play. So, we need to be more consistent, across the board in all three phases.
In terms of things you can control, what has to change over the course of this bye week? Is there personnel issues you're looking to address? Is there schematic things? Like, what has to change for this team to get back to winning?
Well, I think everybody, first and foremost, they need to look at themselves here first. Like I said previously. But yeah, I mean, we're going to look at everything. I think it's important that you look at, the situations of, why situations happen. What decisions are made in those times. To allow those plays to happen. So, yeah, I mean, coaches, players, we're all going to look at everything this week. So, I like the group. They're tough. They're playing hard. They're playing for each other. But obviously, we're not getting it done.
On a positive note, that Robert Carter Jr. interception is going to play on highlight reels forever. You've been around this game a long time. Where does that rank in terms of the most spectacular catches, interceptions you've ever seen?
I saw it live. I didn't have a chance to see it yet on the tape, but he's a good athlete. He makes plays like that in practice all the time, and he's a talented guy that is continuing to grow his role, with us.
How do you think Nate played?
Good. Obviously, we look at things, pretty hard, but I thought he had good command of the offense. I thought, the O-line played well. I thought JB was running hard. Receivers were blocking with great effort. So yeah, I thought he saw the field well tonight.
And James, especially in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought our O-line did a good job of getting him to the second level, and then James always does a good job of making one or two guys miss, whether that's off of contact or just in space. So yeah, continue to as he continues to grow in our offense, I think he's gonna be a special player.
After a loss like this and you're heading to a bye week, how are you gonna help keep the morale up for the team?
Yeah, it's about work. I mean, it's not, it's about, getting back to work. The guys are going to take this week and this is going to sting for a while, right? And, but they have to move, past the emotion of it, to grow. And that's the big thing is, it's okay to let it hurt, and it's okay to, be a little hard on yourself right now, but, you got to move past that. And it's a resilient group. It's a tough group, resilient. Yeah, I think the time will serve them well.